Welcome back to our channel where we share updates and untold stories about Catherine, Princess of Wales, and her royal family. Today we bring you some news. Camilla drops a bad behavior to Princess Charlotte's outfits as shocked. William and Catherine. Look on. The report was made by an insider source that Queen Camilla has just created a fresh royal crisis by making a negative statement regarding Princess Charlotte's preferred choice of attire for royal events. According to the source, for the purpose of promoting British fashion, Princess Charlotte is interested in imitating her mother's clothing style. When asked about her decision, Queen Camilla is said to have laughed and said, "That's terrible." So a royal rift in miniature. When it comes to a future princess royal, what is the dress, the laugh, and the test? It is frequently the unplanned moments that reveal the most in the realm of the British monarchy, which is a society that is precisely staged and where every move is examined and every garment bears symbolic weight. An event that occurred not too long ago and seemed to be unimportant between Queen Camilla and her step-granddaughter Princess Charlotte has turned out to be a complicated web of family relationships, palace politics, and the unrelenting demands that contemporary royalty is subjected to. The royal family was forced to manage a dilemma that is distinctly 21st century, and the public was given an unparalleled view into the process of making a future princess. What started out as a light-hearted joke about a child's flowery frock at a private tea quickly escalated into a digital inferno. The narrative is not one of overt malice or big treachery. Rather, it is one of subtlety and interpretation. It is a quiet drama that is played out in the golden salons of Clarence House and under the watching eye of the journalists from all over the world. It is a story that highlights the difficult balance that the monarchy must maintain between tradition and relatability, as well as the tremendous problems that the younger generation of Windsors must confront. This generation was born into a world in which every moment can be filmed, edited, and endlessly argued online. The merciless aspect of the public gaze was a lesson that Princess Charlotte of Wales, who is now 10 years old, learned from this experience. It served as a timely lesson to Queen Camilla that even the most innocuous of remarks may be weaponized in the court of public opinion. The institution itself was a microcosm of the precise tightrope it walks on a daily basis, which is to preserve the mystery of the crown while yet seeming human, approachable, and most importantly, unified. A teacup, a dress, and a chuckle that was misunderstood are what set off the spark. Clarence House, the majestic palace of King Charles III and Queen Camilla in London, would serve as the location for this event. The event was a modest private afternoon tea taking place in the middle of spring. This was not an official appointment that was recorded on the court circular. Rather, it was a more intimate gathering. Guests and important staff members from the National Literacy Trust, a charity that has been near and dear to the Queen's heart for a long time, were in attendance. The Princess of Wales, Catherine, and her daughter Princess Charlotte were asked to attend the event in order to lend a touch of family warmth to the special occasion. The occasion served as a gentle introduction to the less formal side of royal duties for Princess Charlotte, who was attending. Earlier that morning, Elizabeth and her mother had assembled in her bedroom at Adelaide Cottage, which was located on the Windsor estate, to deliberate on the clothing that she would wear. The ensemble that was selected was a dress made of soft blue cotton, which was adorned with a beautiful pattern of white flowers and was tied at the waist with a simple bow. It was a typical Catherine-approved appearance for her daughter, which was acceptable, modest, and young all at the same time. It was consistent with the image that the Princess of Wales has painstakingly developed for her children, which is that of accessible and well-mannered children, and not of tiny royals dressed in brand labels or other extravagant attire. After some time had passed, a person close to the Waleses family made the following observation: "Catherine is a firm believer in allowing her children to be children. Everything about the garment was intended to be nice and simple. Having a spring tea with her grandma was the ideal occasion for this." From the moment they arrived at Clarence House, the stately edifice, which was stuccoed in cream, emanated an aura that was both formal and hospitable. The Queen of England, Camilla, walked forward to welcome the Princess of Wales and Princess Charlotte as they exited their vehicle and entered the entry hall of the government building. The Queen, who was wearing a cream linen dress and her distinctive pearls, burst into a huge, loving grin at seeing her step-granddaughter. She was wearing her signature pearls. The occurrence of the moment took place at that time. While Charlotte was standing in front of her, Camilla let out a giggle that was low and throaty. The tone of her voice was delighted when she responded, "Oh, my Charlotte, you have the appearance of a fresh spring garden stepping into the room." A small group of Camilla's assistants and visitors who were there at the time described the statement as being typical of Camilla. It was too enthusiastic, a little bit theatrical, and meant to be a compliment of love. The sound of laughing aimed at her carefully selected attire, on the other hand, was disconcerting for a little girl of 10 years old who was standing in the formal entryway of a royal house. A fraction of a second passed, during which Princess Charlotte, who is renowned for her self-assured and somewhat bossy demeanor with her brothers, froze. Her look was a micro-expression that would later be studied by millions of people. It was a flicker of doubt that crossed her face. The moment Camilla became aware of Charlotte's minor reluctance, she instantly extended her hand to take hold of her hands. "It's just beautiful, sweetheart." "Very fresh," she reassured her, maintaining her grin throughout the conversation. She continued by saying, "I just thought you might start handing out roses to everyone," while letting out another little giggle between her teeth. As Charlotte recalled the never-ending instruction on proper royal behavior, she smiled in a manner that was both gracious and well-practiced. On the other hand, those who were on the inside claimed that a germ of self-consciousness had been sown. She cast a look in the direction of her mother, who responded with a soft, comforting smile. This is the kind of nonverbal communication that serves as the royal family's standard mode of communication when they are in public. Immediately after the moment had passed, the party proceeded into the drawing room, which was a place that was adorned with plush couches, precious artwork, and the sound of china being gently clinked. Throughout the whole of the Tea Queen, Camilla exhibited the epitome of a gracious hostess, effortlessly transitioning from one group to the next. Her expression was excited as she emphasized the value of books, and she talked with a lot of enthusiasm about the reading projects she was working on. She was determined to include Charlotte in the discussion, and she did so by introducing her to Mrs. Eleanor Woodhouse, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the National Literacy Trust. The Queen had called out to her, "Come, my dear," encouraging her to come over. "I want you to spend some time with Mrs. Woodhouse. While she is a huge fan of young readers, I've heard that you are also quite the reader yourself." When Charlotte was respectfully discussing a book that she was reading at school, she handled the discussion with a grace that belied her years. In spite of this, people who were there saw that Camilla's gaze periodically returned to the flowery dress, and there was a hint of lingering enjoyment apparent in her countenance. Charlotte was contacted by the Queen later on when the ceremony was winding down and she was presented with a piece of Victoria sponge cake. "Today you have shown a great deal of patience," she added with respect. "You know, when I was your age, I detested being forced to remain seated at gatherings such as this one. I wanted to be near the horses when they were outdoors. I know that you like riding horses." There was a smile on Charlotte's face. She responded with a yes. "Both riding and tennis are enjoyable activities for me." The response from Camilla was, "Good. Always make time for the things that you really adore, in spite of the fact that your outfit is too gorgeous to run in," she said with a last smile that was full of good humor. The intention was for the comments to be a last heartfelt praise, a joke that was shared. However, Charlotte felt that it was an excessive number of references. While she and her mother were leaving Clarence House, the Princess of Wales complimented her daughter on the manner in which she had behaved. In reference to her family's nickname, Lottie, she said, "You did very well." In addition to being courteous, you conducted yourself in a really admirable manner. During the journey back to Windsor, Charlotte responded with a nod but maintained an abnormally low profile. She was able to hear the Queen's laughing regardless of whether or not it was well-intentioned. She was unaware of the fact that that momentary moment of dread was going to be magnified on a worldwide scale, but it was about to happen. A laugh became a headline. The digital firestorm and how it happened. When it comes to the contemporary royal environment, the time that passes between a private event and its subsequent consumption by the public is almost non-existent. As soon as the following morning rolled around, the event was already on the internet. One of the royal bloggers who had been informed about the event by a visitor who was carrying a smartphone uploaded a little video clip that was blurry and showed the arrival at Clarence House. The video footage was short, and it only captured the first welcome, which included Charlotte's entry, Camilla's grin, and the particular sound of laughter that she made. The accompanying caption was written in the form of a question, which is a typical strategy that is used to stimulate participation while avoiding direct accusations. Queen Camilla laughs at Princess Charlotte's floral dress. Fun for the whole family, or is it a little too much for a little princess? Digital dynamite was the post in question. The video clip was ripped, re-edited, and distributed over Instagram, TikTok, and X, which was once known as Twitter, in a matter of hours. The algorithm that was meant to promote information that was divisive in nature was successful. The story started to take shape, and it was showing that the Queen was not in the best position. On websites devoted to entertainment and gossip, headlines that were devoid of any discernible subtlety began to emerge. The article, "Awkward Royals, Queen Camilla's Savage Comment Leaves Princess Charlotte Stunned. Dressgate Inside the Tense Tea Party That Left a Young Princess Embarrassed," is the title of the feature article. Is Camilla's old school a little bit out of step with the modern parenting style of the royal family? At Adelaide Cottage, the atmosphere was one of dissatisfaction that was kept under control. While Prince William was on his way back from an engagement, his communications secretary provided him with an update. According to reports, the prince was informed that it is a non-story, but it is a non-story that is now trending in 5 countries. One of the aides at Kensington Palace noted that the Prince of Wales is a realistic person. To a greater extent than anybody else, he comprehends the beast that is the media. What he was most concerned about was not the optics for the monarchy, but rather the effect it would have on his daughter. Both the prince and the princess have the same goal of providing the children with the highest possible level of protection. It has been reported that Catherine, the Princess of Wales, is in a particularly troubled mindset. As a result of the fact that she had directly assisted Charlotte in selecting the dress, the internet reaction seemed to be more of a criticism of her parenting style than it was a judgment on her daughter's choice of apparel. Charlotte overheard her parents discussing the problem in a muffled and solemn tone when they were in the kitchen that was reserved exclusively for the family. During breakfast, her elder brother, Prince George, who is known for being a pragmatist in the making, is said to have made a statement that was blatantly evident. It is inevitable that people will take heed of anything the Queen has to say. His statements were a crystal-clear depiction of the world that these royal children were living in. "You know how things end up online," he said. In Charlotte, the effect was felt very immediately. It was at her school, Lambrook, when the rumors first started. In passing, a fellow student made a remark about a nice garden dress. Little spite of its insignificance, it was a manifestation of the digital storm, little in the actual world. Despite being a youngster who was inherently tough, Charlotte withdrew inside herself. It was once a source of pride for her to wear the blue flowery dress, but now it was a sign of public contempt that she hung in her closet. After some time had passed, her father came across her in her chamber, where she was sitting calmly. While sitting on the side of her bed, Prince William voiced his concern, saying, "I hear you're having a rough day." The response she gave was, "I didn't do anything wrong," and her voice was soft. William gave her the assurance, "You did not." There are instances when others, even members of our own family, say things that they believe to be humorous, but they end up having a different impact. The manner in which your grandmother Camilla communicates is unique. It's no secret that she has a deep concern for you. However, the most important thing is how you feel, and you may always tell us about it. A story of two courts. According to the palace's reaction. In the meanwhile, the episode brought to light the subtle but substantial variations in attitude that exist between the two primary royal households, Buckingham Palace, which is the residence of the King and Queen, and Kensington Palace, which is the residence of the Prince and Princess of Wales. A policy of dignified quiet was first chosen by Clarence House, which is now functioning under the aegis of Buckingham Palace. The hope was that the story would eventually burn itself out. Their point of view was that addressing the nonsense, as one of their assistants referred to it, would simply serve to provide it with further oxygen. "The Queen has weathered far worse storms," said a courtier who had served for a very long time. "Over the course of many decades, she has been subjected to ridicule and criticism from the media." She considered this to be a very modest squall. First and foremost, she was concerned that Charlotte could have been experiencing actual distress. On the other hand, this viewpoint was in direct opposition to the more contemporary and aggressive public relations technique that the Waleses favored. Due to the fact that their team was highly aware of the power of social media narratives, they believed that the no-comment strategy was out of date and enabled a negative tale to develop. The Kensington Palace model is about shaping the narrative wherever possible and protecting the children at all costs, revealed a royal analyst. The children are the most important issue. They did not see this to be an assault on the Queen, but rather an unreasonable burden that was being put on a girl who was only 10 years old. There are moments when they have to push back, even if it is in a subtle manner, since their inclination is to defend. The amount of pressure increased. For the purpose of analyzing the 15-second film, news stations contacted individuals who specialize in body language. An analyst made the following observation on a morning show. While the Queen's smile is broad notice, the slight head tilt, a gesture that can sometimes be perceived as patronizing. Princess Charlotte's answer is a typical example of how a youngster might react. When they are in an uncomfortable situation, she smiles in a fixed and courteous manner while keeping her posture tight. She is carrying out her responsibilities, but the ease has worn off. Editors in charge of fashion provided their opinions on the importance of the outfit. According to an article that was published in a major newspaper, the Princess of Wales has curated a high-street royalty look for her children that is extremely effective as a result. The fact that they are relatable, when that decision is criticized even in a light-hearted manner by the Queen herself, it creates a fascinating contrast between the aristocratic sensibilities of the old guard and the populist touch of the new guard. At long last, Queen Camilla took action. After having a discussion with her senior assistant, she admitted that the matter, regardless of how little it may be needed to be handled in order to prevent it from casting a shadow over future relationships within the family. She made a phone call to Catherine in a forthright manner. Reports indicate that the talk was courteous, yet forthright. The explanation that Camilla was alleged to have given was, "Of course I meant it to be a compliment. She seemed to be really stunning. I never ever once wanted her to experience any kind of embarrassment." Catherine's response was measured, and she said, "I am aware of that. However, you are aware of the fact that these things have the potential to snowball, particularly when a child is involved." Camilla did make the connection. She agreed with the notion that the perception had started to take precedence over the intention. Even if the conversation came to an end with a mutual accord, the public portion of the tale had not yet been completed. A challenge carried out under pressure. The garden party. A large-scale garden party was held at Buckingham Palace in favor of children's literacy, and it was held 2 weeks after the last appearance. The royal calendar featured another joint appearance. Queen Camilla and members of the Wales family were both expected to be present at the event. There was a difficulty as well as an opportunity for the palace strategists to take advantage of. It was decided that Charlotte would go to the event and play a minor part, which would consist of distributing bookmarks that had been specifically prepared to children who attended schools that were invited. This was a gesture that was intended to illustrate that the little princess was unaffected and to show that the family was unified in front of the world. During this particular instance, the selection of Charlotte's attire was given considerably more careful consideration. Catherine went for a lilac dress that was understated in its elegance and had a discreet lace collar. It was lovely, but it was not overpowering. When Catherine informed her daughter, "Simple, pretty, and you can run in it if you need to," the implication was quite clear. This was an outfit that did not provide an easy target for critique. When one arrived at the palace, the mood was one of artificially induced joy. The underlying tension was obvious as the royal family made their way past the people that had gathered on the expansive lawn. When Queen Camilla took notice of Charlotte, she approached her with a grin that was both purposeful and kind. She spoke in a voice that was both clear and sympathetic, and she remarked, "Ah, here is our wonderful young helper." The response was straightforward, pleasant, and most importantly, entirely free of any laughing or mockery. "You look very nice today, Charlotte," the comment said. Seemingly at ease, Charlotte became. For a period of time, the event went off without a hitch. Both Camilla and Charlotte moved together, exemplifying the harmonious coexistence of different generations. Charlotte would be introduced to groups of youngsters by the Queen, who would add, "The princess is quite the reader herself," which would enable Charlotte to join in the activity in a natural way. Nevertheless, the press was responsible for breaking the ceasefire. A photographer from a well-known tabloid, who is renowned for his provocative inquiries, came out to Camilla and Charlotte as they were halted at a table asking, "No flowers today, princess?" It was more of a calculated prod, an allusion to the event that occurred at Clarence House. On Charlotte's face, there was a glimmer of the tension that had been there before. Prior to her having the opportunity to respond, Queen Camilla let out a soft chuckle, which was a different type of laugh this time, one that was intended to deflect. "No, there will be no flowers," she remarked with a casual tone guiding the discussion. "Charlotte, we have decided to go with a more sophisticated lace instead, haven't we?" The simple mention of the subject in conjunction with the Queen's chuckle was sufficient to rekindle the story, despite the fact that it was a deflection that was executed with expertise. Shortly after the hour had passed, more photographs were uploaded to the internet, with descriptions such as, "Camilla jokes again about Charlotte's wardrobe at palace party." The level of pressure continued to increase. A reporter screamed a straight question from beyond the rope line later on as the event was winding down and a little rain started to fall. The reporter said, "Princess Charlotte, will you be bringing back the flower dress for the summer?" When the inquiry was directed specifically at a youngster, it was a blatant violation of the unwritten conventions that govern royal reporting. Charlotte became completely numb. It was a moment that lingered in the moist air. During this particular instance, Queen Camilla was the one who took decisive action. She stepped slightly in front of Charlotte, successfully blocking the reporter's line of sight and preventing her from seeing who she was. "The princess has a great many lovely dresses," she murmured, her voice peaceful but with an evident edge of steel. "The princess has a great many dresses." Although she was smiling, it did not reach her eyes. Her grin was frozen. The conversation came to an end when she placed a soft hand on Charlotte's back and instructed her to go towards the entrance of the palace. It was a defining event in time. At that very moment, Camilla was not the somewhat out-of-touch grandmother-in-law. Rather, she was a protective queen who was protecting a member of her family from an intrusion by the media. The boundary that had been crossed was something that she had recognized, and she had responded without any hesitation. towards the reconciliation, an apology from the Queen, and a choice from the princess. There had been a public test during the garden party, but the real resolve needed to take place behind the doors of confidentiality. An envelope of modest size that had been personally delivered arrived at Adelaide Cottage the next week. It was written in the Queen's immaculate cursive style and dedicated to Princess Charlotte for her attention. There was a brief personal message included inside. My dear Charlotte, I have been thinking about the two events that have occurred between us in the past. If the words I spoke caused you to feel uneasy, please accept my deepest apologies. It was my honest opinion that you looked absolutely stunning in that outfit. It was like a picture taken from one of my favorite children's novels. Maybe we could get together for a cup of tea soon, just the two of us. Books and horses are two topics that we may discuss, and you can also tell me what you are currently reading. With love, Camilla, your grandmother. There was a big gesture made by the message. An uncommon and intimate acknowledgement from a king to a youngster. It was a direct apology from the Queen to the child. In addition to being an act of grandmotherly devotion, it was also an act of queenly diplomacy. In response to the invitation, Charlotte took it. A week later, the tea was held in a modest sitting room at Clarence House that was illuminated by the sun. The location was located away from any cameras. The Queen and the Princess were the only ones there. There were no aides present. There was a modest selection of books that Camilla had put out, one of which was a copy of Black Beauty from her youth that she had cherished, and that had really stunning illustrations. Their conversation did not revolve around clothes or photographers. Rather, it focused on school, their mutual affection for animals, and the characters in the books that they enjoyed the most. In the course of her conversation with Charlotte, Camilla listened more than she talked, inquiring about her friends, her pony, and her tennis lessons. The endeavor to restore the bridge of trust was carried out in a manner that was both meticulously organized and truly kind. As they were finishing their tea, Camilla informed her, "You are developing into a very strong and self-assured young lady because of your growth. It is imperative that you never allow little remarks or fleeting situations to deprive you of that. You can always count on people to have something to say. Remembering who you are is all that is required of you." As Charlotte walked out of Clarence House on that particular day, she was carrying a new book, and her heart was feeling lighter. Despite the fact that the public instances had been perplexing and upsetting, this private moment of bonding had created a compelling counter-narrative. Princess Charlotte, on the other hand, was the only one who was able to complete the last act of this silent play. After a month had passed, she made a conscious decision in order to attend a Sunday church service at Windsor that was certain to draw cameras. As Charlotte's mother presented her with a number of different alternatives for what she might wear, Charlotte made her way to her closet and indicated. A blue, flowery dress was the one she went with. Prince George showed his astonishment by raising an eyebrow and then breaking into a supportive smile when she emerged from the room. The Princess of Wales did not utter a single word, although she did show a little grin that was filled with pride. The decision that she made was courageous, and it was a message that she would not allow herself to be defined by a hashtag or a headline. While they were making their way to the church, the cameras began clicking off the hook. Once they saw the outfit, the photographers recognized it instantly. Charlotte, however, had a different demeanor this time around. She carried herself with a cheery, self-assured grin on her face as she walked with her shoulders back and her head held high. The way she stared at the cameras was not one of defiance. Rather, it was one of unwavering self-possession from her perspective. When Queen Camilla, who was waiting for them on the stairs, saw the outfit, her face lighted up with a real and unconditionally warm grin. She was waiting for them. As she spoke, her voice carried just enough for others who were in close proximity to hear her. "Now, that's my favorite dress," she remarked. She did not tease in any way. Rather, her tone was one of confirmation. In the future, when they were driving back to their house, Catherine asked her daughter in a low voice, "So how did it feel?" Following a little pause, Charlotte pondered. The response that she gave was, "Like it's just a dress again." In that instant, the clothing was no longer a representation of humiliation. Rather, it was a souvenir of a struggle that had been won in a stealthy manner. One of the most important lessons that Charlotte had learned was one that many grown-ups who are in public life never learn. While you cannot control the narrative, you can control how you respond to it. In doing so, she had stolen something that was under the gaze of the public and made it her own. She had not been intimidated by the murmurs or the flashbulbs, and she had shown to them that they had no influence over her. It was perhaps her first deed that was genuinely worthy of a queen. In the realm of the palace, the event, which was now commonly referred to as the dress, had reached its conclusion, leaving behind a future princess who was more powerful, more knowledgeable, and tougher. Thank you for watching the video. Please let us know your thoughts, and goodbye for now.